Please welcome the one and only Stephen A. Smith. Oh, my God.
How you doing? Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, welcome to the Tam Fam.
What's going on?
Oh, a little
How you doing?
lot. I'm doing great. You're doing fantastic.
Well, you know what? You're doing a lot better than me right now. I happen to know that you're a Dallas Cowboy fan. I won't hold it against you. Y'all, for the first time in 27 years or so, y'all got a reason to celebrate a little bit. Congratulations.
Listen,
congratulations.
We have a picture of me, my Tony Romo jersey. You know, Tony Romo retired from the Cowboys, one of my favorites. Yes. I've been a Cowboy fan since Drew Pearson, since Tony Dorsett, right. Since the Doomsday Defense. Yes. That's my blood.
Well, see...
And you come out here already talking like this at me.
But it's valid. It's valid. See, when you rooted for them, they were relevant. they were champions. There was justification for their bravado and all of this other stuff. And you could understand how people will walk around saying, how about those Cowboys? I'm just talking about the last 27 years. So I don't know what's been going on with y'all.
Listen, okay.
I'm just saying.
The whole time you're talking, all I could think about was, how many whoopings did he get at age 7? because that voice, that confidence surely was not acquired later in life. Were you born this confident in your...
Well, I wouldn't say born that way. I did, my mother did say I came out of the womb running my mouth. She did say that. Did I get beat several times? Sure, but not by her. See, I have 4 older sisters. I'm the youngest of 6, and I have 4 older sisters, and I have to say, Tamron, they were quite abusive, too.
Don't you dare.
They would mess with me. I love them dearly. My older sister, Linda, Abigail, all in common. I love them dearly, but they gave me a rough go of it. They would slap me upside my head from time to time, absolutely.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because obviously being raised around strong women,
yes,
strong sisters.
Yes.
How did that help you find your voice?
Well, number one, they implored me to know what I was talking about when I opened my mouth. Number 2, never be fearful to admit when you're wrong. Don't try to cover it up, because sometimes the cover-up is worse than the deed itself, per se. So they taught me that, but more importantly, they made me focus on being a human being, understanding that there's a difference between characterizing what someone does and who they are. And so I really, really focus all the time. And that's where my confidence level comes from, because a lot of times when people see me on talking sports or, anything, I've talked sports, I've talked politics. I used to see you at MSNBC.
Well, that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I met Stephen A. back when we were both at MSNBC.
Yeah.
And I knew of the legend of Stephen A. Smith. Right. But the guy I met at that time, you were in this uncertain space.
Yeah, the ESPN let me go. We had a contract dispute. I obviously thought I was worth more than they thought I was worth at that particular moment in time. And I didn't do enough of my homework. And I felt like I was worthy of more than they were offering me. And so,
but the bottom line, you'd been let go.
I was let go, and I was unemployed.
Right. And that's when I met you.
That's when you met me.
So when he walked into, we all had little cubicles, and Stephen A. walked in. First I thought, is he doing politics now? Right. But I have to be honest, and I never shared this with you, I didn't see that legendary swagger.
Right.
And I thought...
It was gone.
It was gone.
It was gone. I was humbled beyond belief. I was questioning myself in a lot of different areas, because I knew that I came up in sports, and I knew that I knew what I was doing. And to be let go under those circumstances, and to not have anybody in the sports world pursue you at all. I didn't have any job opportunities.
Everything. So you are called one of the greatest people. You had fans, both athletes and outside. Yep. People were giving you exclusives. And then when you went in to negotiate the contract, that blew up, didn't go the way you thought.
That's right.
And nobody called you.
And nobody called me. Nobody. A decade ago, I was completely unemployed, living off of my savings. Literally living off of my savings, and I had just become a father, so I was wondering what on earth was going to happen to my life, my career, whatever. But then my sisters and my mom were like, you know who you are, you know what you're made of, this is a bump in the road, you've got to rebuild, but it doesn't start unless you look at yourself. And so they came to me and they challenged me to look at me and to recognize what mistakes I had made.
had you played the game wrong?
Totally. You know, I was very confident, but more importantly, I was uninformed about my own worth. You know, I didn't study the business and master my art the way that I needed to in terms of understanding what your true value is. I looked at the fact that people were screaming my name in public and I was recognizable and thought that that was all that I needed. But I didn't pay attention to ratings, Q scores, and things of that nature, things that the business of sports journalism uses to gauge your value, what you mean to the company that you represent, what kind of revenue you generate, and things of that nature. And so when I went about the business of focusing on that, my whole world changed, because the next time I came to the negotiating table, once I had gotten back into the business, I knew exactly what I was worth and what I wasn't.
Did you know how to present yourself differently? You
Of
and
course.
I know when you walk in the room,
Yeah.
you know, people have an expectation of who they're talking to.
Right.
Did you learn, you know, they call it the carrot stick approach. Did you learn, all right, let me bring this person in before I lower the boom of what I want?
I got something very simple to tell you that I figured out that I think will work for anybody in the world of corporate America and beyond. I wake up every day with two missions in mind. How do I make my bosses more money, and how do I get some of it? Very simple. Why is that? Because if you wake up with that mindset, number one, the boss wants to hear what you have to say because they know that you're putting them first. And then they don't resent you trying to get some of it yourself. As a result, it forces or provokes conversation and dialogue between the two parties involved. You're listening to them, they're listening to you, because everybody's trying to win. And that's what it comes down to. You're creating a win-win proposition for everybody.
How have you learned to use your voice, though, with the viewers? I mean, we know there have been some legendary, you know, back and forth between you and athletes. You recently came out against Kyrie Irving, who has decided not to get vaccinated. You weighed in, and on his refusal, you said, this is some of the stupidest nonsense I've ever seen, just flat out stupid.
Yeah.
While some people applaud that, some people say, wait a minute, why is he speaking this way? Why is he coming after Kyrie Irving in such a hard way? Do you have a tender touch, or is it always boom?
I'm very tender.
Not there, but I mean.
Not there. But what I'm saying is that I got to call it like I see it. And when you have an audience that you're asking to gravitate towards you, you're sending the message to them, I'm trustworthy. I believe what I'm saying, and I'm telling you exactly where I stand. So there's no shade, there's no ambiguity whatsoever. And in the case of Kyrie Irving, people were talking about him and the vaccine. My position was, no, you just don't want to go to work. Because before the vaccine ever became an issue, after 10 months off, you played for 2 weeks and then you needed a break after the riots took place at the U.S. Capitol. You're a basketball player. That doesn't mean that you don't think about things and you don't care about things, but that was no excuse to take 2 weeks off from work after you've been off for 10 months.
But are you ever uncomfortable, Stephen, using your voice to tell people how they're feeling? In this case, he says, this is how I feel. Right. This is my feeling. I wasn't saying anything about how he felt. Right. I was saying, you have feelings, I have feelings. There's a lot of things that, you know, keep us down and make us feel bad or whatever. But we have obligations, and you honor those obligations. Any regrets over things that you've said that you've used what is your biggest one? The biggest regret, when you look back, I used my voice in the wrong way, ... Well, I remember when my comments were misconstrued about Shohei Ohtani, who plays Major League Baseball for the Los Angeles Angels. You know, I gave the impression that MLB wouldn't market him because he used an interpreter. First of all, he speaks English. He speaks English all the time, even though sometimes he uses an interpreter. But more importantly, what I was trying to say was that the MLB wouldn't market him because their history shows that they need to do a better job of marketing individuals other than just white prominent ball players. That's what I was trying to say, but it came out wrong. There was another time when I got into some heat because folks thought that I was condoning domestic violence somehow, some way, which is one of the most egregious things that I could ever think of. Anybody that knows me, I was raised by 5 women, for crying out loud. I've never touched a woman in my life, never would. But the bottom line is that when I was talking about a particular situation that involved a former football player in Ray Rice, there were people, because I uttered the word provocation,
people assumed that I was talking about somebody provoking their own domestic violence against themselves, as opposed to it being the other way around. And that's not what I was saying
and
at all.
you made that clear. So I'm always
Yes.
curious when I see you, because you do speak so rapidly. You have the cadence of a Southern minister. You have the
Right.
swagger of a rapper, you know, who's on the mic. Do you think before you speak all the time?
Well, I do. I believe I do. But what happens is that I'm in a debate format. So if I'm just talking, that's different. But when you're arguing with somebody and you're going back and forth and you're trying to make a point, and it's like rapid fire, well, we got 8 minutes to address this segment, and you're going back and forth and butting heads with one another, sometimes cogent speech and what have you gets lost in the shuffle. And sometimes you slip up and you might say the wrong thing. That happens. It's happened to me. And I certainly am not, I'm not absolved from blame in that regard. But where I will address anyone is when someone talks about my intent. Because I'm very, very clear about what my intent is.
And that's why your voice is powerful, because you speak from a place of heart, and you know your intention. And when it is misunderstood, you're always willing to put yourself out there to clear it up.
And if I'm wrong, I'll apologize.
Well, that's why you have a powerful voice. Thank you so much for coming on.